giants, the tall folk, the biggins, tundra striders, and possibly the first species in Tamriel to achieve space travel. Also, when first encountered, one may have been getting killed by the companions, which, let's face it, as first impressions go, is up there with meeting someone and then getting mugged by them. They have many giant camps throughout Skyrim and will wander around with them with their herds of mammoths. But from where in Nirn do they hail from? What is their culture and behaviour like? Why do they look like they do? Where did the species originate and from whom? I aim to try and answer this and more, so let's take a look. Their appearance is extremely interesting. They stand at around 12 feet tall, so roughly double the height of our character, and walk with a gentle dander, swaying side to side without a cur in the world. Their clothing can vary quite a bit. Some walk around wearing nothing but a loincloth that leaves too little to the imagination if you ask me, and some try a bit harder. They wear a kilt fashioned from what I assume is bear or wolf fur, and adorned with bones from an unknown animal, possibly other giants or mammoths based on the size of the bones. Leggings of a sort seem to be fashionable, from sort of a leather wrapping, no doubt to prevent their feet from getting torn to shreds from walking on rocks. Their limbs are quite long and their hands and feet large, and you know what they say, large feet. Their skin is a faded grey colour, almost like ash was rubbed into it. Their skin is covered in many strange runes and sigils. These runes are most likely based on the Picts, a tribe of Celts that dwelt in Scotland during the late Iron Age, approximately 2100 years ago. The runes are slightly raised from the skin, so it seems to be a form of ritualistic scarification. So now, intelligence and culture. As I stated before, we can assume a certain amount of intelligence as they can craft their own weapons, tools and clothing, so straight away this sets them apart from the average riff-raff creatures of Skyrim. Also, the braids and possible skin tattoos / scarification would also suggest a greater level of advancement for the species. Occasionally a giant can be seen clasping their chin as if they're pondering or thinking of something, though what it could be is up to speculation, most likely in how to best break your legs. They might also have a religion or at least an object that they worship. Southwest of Whiterun is a giant camp called Secunda's Kiss. Secunda is one of the smaller moons that orbit Nirn. The two moons are the remains of the Aedra Lorcan. Now there's a huge story there, but that is a story for another time. So the camp is called Secunda's Kiss, and at this camp is a shrine of sorts. It is adorned with mammoth bones, and according to the guards at Whiterun, the giants see it as sacred. Now a random event can sometimes occur, in which a farmer takes a cow with similar runes painted on it to the giants. He tells you that he does this so that the giants will leave his farm alone, and that while people see him as crazy, it does work.
I'd stay away if I were you. I'm on my way to a giant camp, and I can't guarantee those beasts won't think you're part of the offering. Keep your distance, and you shouldn't have anything to worry about. The cow, of course. Others do it differently. But I found that an annual offering usually keeps the giants away from our livestock. Some think it's superstition, but I believe it works. I've yet to have a giant kill any of my livestock. It's tradition. We mark the animal as a way to let the giants know we're giving it to them willingly. Sort of a peace offering. It's tradition. We mark the animal as a way to let the giants know we're giving it to them willingly. Sort of a peace offering. I have everything under control. Thanks for offering. Thanks. You take care of yourself now.
The cow may be used at this altar as an offering to Secunda, which may mean that the giants worship Lorcan, or parts of Lorcan. Also, just for shits and giggles, the giants usually kill the farmer when he shows up with the cow, so he may in fact be the offering to the moon, as when they're done with him, he's on the way. Another note on the possible sophistication of their culture is that, as previously stated, some giants wear clothes and wear bones, and some do not. This might be a sign of status, such as the bones are taken from their victims upon re-entry into Nirn. They may have also been known to group together an appointed chieftain, usually in times of conflict or war. These clans can number in the hundreds as shown in the Songs of Return Volume 27. It is also known that they communicated with the Dwemer. The Velothi Mountains separate Skyrim and Morrowind, and were settled by the Dwemer. The name Dwarfs appears to have been given to them by the giants, who also inhabited these mountains at the same time. This would make sense as, in comparison to them, the Dwemer would have been extremely small, though how they actually came up with the word dwarf is unknown. They might have been mispronouncing Dwemer. They do have a language of sorts, as most species do, though it is apparently quite guttural and unintelligible to the average person, and they have shown the ability to learn rudimentary Tamrielic. The written form of the language seems to be swirls and runes that they write in, meaning the markings on their bodies may have a greater significance. The dwarfs could communicate with them. According to the 7 fights of the Aldudaga, the giants speak in but one tongue. This means that they do have a language and they may prefer to not communicate with other species. They are a semi-nomadic race and tend to wander Skyrim, setting up camp where it suits them, with some being more permanent than others. They herd mammoths as they do so and utilize them for milk and cheese. It is speculated that the mammoths and the giants communicate, and that the paths the giants take on their travels are dictated by the wanderings of the mammoths. A curious conundrum, however, is the topic of giant women. Apart from Elder Scrolls Online, the females are never actually seen. The reason for this is unknown. Some speculate that it is because the males herd the mammoths and collect food, and the females live in the mountains. This theory is further supported by many of the books and lore entries on the giants. Many of them live in the Velothi Mountains. It could be the majority of giants are not nomadic and that we only see a small portion of them here in Skyrim. As a result, the females may be living with the majority of the race, and they would be found in the mountains. So now the most interesting topic. Where did the giants come from? So there are 2 primary theories on this. The first is the giants are a species of Mer. This is due to their pointy ears and the slight horns that can be found on their temples. All in all, their faces bear some resemblance to that of the orcs. I don't believe this theory at all. The theory that I want to talk about and that I believe to be their actual origins is that they are the descendants of the Atmoran giants, the species that lived in Atmora, the continent other than Tamriel, before a civil war broke out and many of them migrated to Tamriel. So first of all, we are once again going to look at the 7 fights of the Aldudaga. Within it, there is a passage called Fight 6, the 911th cow. In it, it talks of the giants and of their origins. Also on why they paint cows as a peace offering. Now, there's a lot of lore that supports this theory. The biggest bit of evidence is this picture. This is a picture of Talos greeting the last king of Atmora. As you can see, he's fucking huge, much larger than giants are right now. Now we know that the Atmoran humans were larger than normal people, and that they fled Atmora and migrated to Tamriel due to a civil war. Fight 6 also says the giants left Atmora and settled in the mountain ranges around the coast of Skyrim. Now one Atmoran that we know of fought the giants. He is Grimora. He and the people he brought over with him fought and killed the giants after settling in Skyrim. Eventually they drove them up into the mountains and the giants did not return for many years. Now the king of Atmora is huge, far larger than the giants that we see today. The Atmorans that the Nords are descended from were even smaller still. So here's what I think. I think that the ruling race in Atmora was a race of large giants, around the size of the king of Atmora. At some point a civil war broke out, and the Atmoran humans and some of the giants decided to leave Atmora. Now the king of Atmora is huge, far larger than the giants that we see today. The Atmorans the Nords are descended from were even smaller still. So here's what I think. I think the ruling race in Atmora was a race of large giants, around the size of the king of Atmora. At some point a civil war broke out, and the Atmoran humans and some of the giants decided to leave Atmora. They left and came to Skyrim, and waged war on one another. Eventually, the people that would become the Nords drove the giants up into the mountains. Now once again in Fight 6, it is stated that the Nords were once as big as giants. Since the Nords came from the smaller Atmorans that settled here, we can infer that those Atmorans were once larger as well, tracing back their lineage to the Atmoran giants possibly. So they drove the giants into the mountains, and they did not come back for an unspecified amount of time. When they did, they were like they are now, lazy and of less intelligence than they once were. The people that would become the Nords also became smaller, but had grown in intelligence. So we think we know where they came from and about their culture, but why the decrease in intelligence? Well, I'm blaming the Dwemer. There are a whole other video or 10, so I do not want to get into it too much, but essentially it would not be the first time they fucked over a species and ruined them. I believe that after the giants had their encounter with the dwarfs, they did something to the giants, something to take their intelligence, to decrease it. Maybe it was to make them easier to deal with, maybe they saw them as a threat. But I think they took some of their intellect, and when the giants reappeared, they were simpler than they had been. So the giants are descended from the Atmoran giants. These people migrated to Skyrim from Atmora because of a civil war. Eventually, they were drove off and became the more simple-minded creatures that we see today. They roam about Skyrim, herding their mammoths, and accepting the occasional tribute from farmers, and then launching said farmers into the stratosphere. Skyrim is rich in lore, with many species, places and concepts having huge in-depth stories behind them. If you like this one on giants, I would appreciate a like and a share. If you want to see more of my content, check out my playlists and see if there are any more questions on this or Fallout that you have and I may have answered. Any support in spreading the word of this channel is greatly appreciated, as Fallout 4 is just around the corner. If you do want to support me and get regular updates, subscribe. Any suggestions or feedback for this episode should be left in either the comments section below or on my subreddit, which is linked in the description. Follow me on Twitter or Facebook to get regular channel updates and to talk to me or have a wee chat. I hope you did enjoy this episode, and I hope to see you in the next one. Until then, goodbye.